Patriots Daily is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
It's Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media. The Patriots reacquired J.C. Jackson today after swapping late-round 2025 draft picks with the LA Chargers. Now, Jackson had a pretty tumultuous career, or rather year, while he was in LA. He had a knee injury that took him out for most of last season, but he also had some pretty up and down play, pretty uncharacteristic from what we saw when he was with the Patriots, and I really think that was due to a few issues. I'm not sure he was used the best way in the Chargers defense, but I also saw some regression in his play and some moments that just didn't quite seem like the defender he was when he was with the Patriots. Now, it has to be taken into consideration that Jackson himself admitted he's not fully back from that knee injury and is still trying to work his way back to 100%. So it's unlikely that we're going to see the version of J.C. Jackson that we saw when he was a Pro Bowler last time around in New England. One, because of the injury, and two, because of some of the things that we're going to dive into in the tape that I'm just not quite sure how quickly he'll be able to regain the form that he had under New England's coaching staff. But we'll take a look at the tape. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, first play we're going to look at, J.C. Jackson lined up in the slot against Jalen Waddle, Miami's number 2 speedster. Not going to play out very well for J.C. Jackson. Now, this is a combination of things. I think it involves both how he was used on this play and a little bit of his own technique issues. Now, first of all, J.C. Jackson lined up in the slot in a press alignment. I'm not sure that's really where you want JC. He's a physical guy who you want to get hands-on receivers, but in a situation in the slot where you've got a two-way release, I'm not sure that's the best course of action for him, especially when you consider looking at the defense on the back end. What you're going to see is this plays out initially kind of like cover 2, but instead of dropping into a deep half like what you usually see where this guy goes here, this guy goes here, what you're actually going to see is this middle safety really just stick to midfield, and then the safety towards the boundary is going to look like he's in a deep half. So there's not a ton of help here or any help in the middle of the field, pretty much leaving J.C. Jackson on an island when he's already outside leverage against Jalen Waddle. And what's going to make it even worse is that once Waddle tries to close the space, J.C. Jackson doesn't make any contact in the route. Now, J.C. thrives when he does make that contact because, one, it allows him to slow down the receiver a bit with his length and physicality, and he can also keep track of where the receiver is, which allows him to be such a great ball hawk. But there's no contact in the route at all, and then it's just a foot race with Jalen Waddle inside. Yeah, you're not catching that guy when he's got all that space and room to run. So overall, that's another one. I'll run it back one more time. But not only do I not think that was a great position to put JC in where he's pressed up in the slot with all that space to cover, not great closing speed from the corner, but at the same time, without any inside help, that's a pretty tough position for any NFL corner. All right, now on this play, we're going to see J.C. Jackson outside against Tyreek Hill. This is going to be a more competitive route than what we saw last time because we actually see some contact from J.C. Jackson in the route. Allows him to be a little more of the J.C. that we recognize, where not a great throw from 2, obviously, but he's still able to be competitive in the route. Now, this is going to play out as, I think it's more of a split safety coverage with each of the outside corners. You'll see Mike Davis here and J.C. Jackson. Looks like they're locked in man coverage because how it's going to play out is this safety has his eyes inside, like he's trying to take away any kind of crossing route that may come here. You're going to see this safety, I think he's just taken anything deep and outside, and then this defender right here is going to play anything short and outside, and this inside defender is going to play anything short to the inside there. So they're going to play this like zone where everybody basically takes routes that go into their leverage. But again, J.C. Jackson one-on-one with Tyreek Hill. Now, unlike the last rep, you're going to see this is a tough position because he is on an island. But Tyreek Hill coming off the line, you see J.C. Jackson gets into his chest. That forces Tyreek Hill to work through contact, swim over the route, and the Patriots preached it when they played Miami. It's all about slowing these guys down in the routes. Here you see JC do a good job of that, allows him to stay in competitive position. Again, Tyreek doesn't give a great ball. I think he tries to put this on the inside shoulder away from JC, but you see the cornerback extend, compete, much better rep there from JC Jackson. All right, now this is one where you really hope that with the Patriots, he irons out some of the discipline issues that you saw when he was with the Chargers. Because there were some moments where he just had some pretty inexcusable lapses. Now here, as you can tell from the wide angle, the Dolphins are trying to throw a Hail Mary because it's the end of the half. They have 2 seconds left in the first half. They're just trying to see if they can, they're not really trying to get all the way into the end zone because that's a long way to go, but they're trying to see, hey, maybe we can draw a flag or something like that. It's a pretty desperate play, but JC Jackson's going to oblige. So you've got him across from Eric Ezukama. Looks fine here. Even if it's a catch, there's nothing wrong with that, but JC makes contact and you see a wave of flags. So let's go back into this one. All right, now you're going to see JC is in one-on coverage against Eric Ezukama pretty much. He's just trying to follow him. See right here. Just going to follow him across the field. But rather than even allowing the catch and making the tackle, because there's no time left, there's really no stress about allowing a catch here. You just got to make the tackle afterwards. Inexcusably looking for the ball, but also pushes the receiver. You can't get away with that. It's one thing to make contact to kind of get a feel for where the receiver is while looking at the ball. Doesn't matter if you're looking back in this situation. Full on pushes off, and it's a wave of flags. You can't do that. Eric Ezukama knows it. JC doesn't look exactly surprised that that's the outcome. You see the hands a little bit, but he's not trying to sell that was a mistake. He understands. Those kind of plays aren't going to cut it in New England. All right, now this one, JC Jackson at the top of the screen against River Craycraft. Not as competitive as a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Waddle, but this is another play where you kind of see JC Jackson doing his thing and making a play on the football. So let's see how this comes to fruition. This is a play where we're going to see JC Jackson one-on-one coverage against Craycraft. You're going to see Craycraft tries to close the gap there. And you see JC try to slow it down a bit with that outside hand. But I think this more to establish, get in position and get a feel for where the receiver's going. But it doesn't do a ton to disrupt the route. But still, you can see he's right on that hip, breaks on the ball. And Tua throws great anticipation. You'll see this is where Tua is about to release the ball, all right? And Craycraft isn't even looking. So it's great anticipation from Tua. The ball's right on him, but JC Jackson, because he's in good position, is able to still make a play on this. You see this outside arm right here. You see him punch at the ball as Craycraft is going to the ground, squirts out, incompletion. That's the kind of thing you want to see from JC Jackson, all right? Impacting the catch point because he's in good enough position to do so. Right, tight coverage. Again, not the most competitive rep that you're going to get against the Dolphins who have Tyreek Hill, who have Jalen Waddle. That's really the guys that scare you, but still, competitive play.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose.
All right, now this one against Braxton Berrios. Again, not the toughest matchup. He's not one of the guys on Miami's group that scares you, but this is a little peek at Mr. INT, as he was known when he was with the Patriots. So let's see what happens here. JC at the top of the screen. Tight coverage. He's there all the way on that outside hip. Great adjustment to the football in the air. Again, Tua doesn't do a lot to help his receiver here. That's a good play on the ball from JC. Probably should have knelt there. It's not great decision-making from him to put the Chargers offense way inside their own territory, but let's just go back and see what happens here. So it looks like Berrios is trying to win with an inside release, and you see this from some smaller guys because it can just be easier than going outside where there's not a ton of space. You can get squeezed to the sideline. Some smaller guys will try to get that inside release. You see it from Demario Douglas where they'll go, kind of rewind this, where the idea is to go inside where you can kind of get that speed advantage and stack and then drift back to the outside to try to win on the vertical. But JC isn't threatened by the speed. He's got that hand on Berrios just to get himself in position. Berrios can't get separation downfield. JC right in his hip. Great adjustment to the ball. Tua puts on Berrios' outside shoulder. I'm not sure if it was a misconnection or what goes on here. But again, J.C. Jackson in good position, makes a play on the ball. Not a great decision to take it out of the end zone, but, Patriots will let them know, hey, maybe don't do that with us. All right, this is one of those plays where I don't think the Chargers were putting him in a great position to succeed. Although this is also a tip of the cap kind of scheme thing for the Dolphins. So you're going to see that they motion their tight end Durham Smythe, which is essentially going to create a situation where he ends up one-on-one with Tyreek Hill, and it just isn't going to end well. You see this, doesn't get a hand on Hill. Hill blows past him. Easy touchdown there. Not something you want to see. But we'll break down what exactly happens with the coverage here. Because once you get this motion from Durham Smythe, this basically becomes a coverage where the safety to J.C. Jackson's side, rather than giving him help and going outside, his job is to do what we saw kind of earlier, where he's going to look at anything coming to the middle and try to pick that off right there. I don't know why I did that with the arrow, my bad. But he doesn't have any responsibility because there's three receivers on this side. It's a trips check, which trip check, three receivers to one side, you're basically trying to get a numbers advantage. But that numbers advantage, where now they've got all these defenders with eyes on this side of the field, is going to leave them with J.C. Jackson one-on-one on Tyreek Hill. Jackson doesn't get a hand on Hill. You see him kind of get the panic mode pretty quickly. You see that hand fly up like that. Not good. That's when a cornerback is not comfortable. It's pretty straightforward. Tyreek blows past him with his incredible speed. I understand the check for that situation where you have three receivers and the Dolphins are so dangerous with their ability to create matchups. This is also a coverage that they used pretty often last season, the Chargers, against the Dolphins, and it worked out for them. But in this game, as you can see, was not the move. So that's another one. J.C. Jackson doesn't get a hand on, and he can't allow a free release and press coverage against a Tyreek Hill, but also the scheme doesn't do him a lot of favors because he's on an island. Last play we're going to look at against DeAndre Hopkins. Now, with a J.C. Jackson where he's a bigger, more physical corner, you would expect him to be able to go toe-to-toe with someone like a DeAndre Hopkins who now lacks the great vertical speed he used to have, or the competitive, rather, vertical speed that Hopkins used to have. But he's still a bigger, more physical corner, so you'd think he and J.C. Jackson, that's a pretty good matchup there. But once again, J.C. Jackson isn't going to get hands on the receiver. Not a competitive rep. Easy pitch and catch there for DeAndre Hopkins. J.C. Jackson does close on it a bit at the end, but let's take a look at this route and see how it plays out. So as you saw, DeAndre Hopkins just going to run a pretty straightforward slant route, but J.C. Jackson is going to think that he's going outside. You kind of see him shuffle a little bit, and then he tries to recover by shooting a jam with the inside arm to try to slow down Hopkins' route and inside progress, but he whiffs. Tries to shoot two hands or one hand. Maybe that's just a balance thing. Neither one lands. Hopkins doesn't even have to do anything to swat J.C. Jackson's hands down. He just doesn't make the contact. Whiffs on the jam. Easy inside win for Hopkins there. That's not a scheme thing. This is the matchup that you want, especially if you're the Patriots. You lose a Christian Gonzalez. You're hoping, all right, can we get a guy who can maybe not take on number ones, true number ones, but guys who are bigger and win more with their size and physicality? You hope that the Patriots can coach this one up and get him to use better technique. So, J.C. Jackson, I'm not quite sure you can expect him to be your Gonzalez replacement. Again, there's the injury concerns. As I detailed here, there's some technique things. Even though the Chargers scheme didn't always put him in the best position to succeed, I also think there are things with JC that need to be cleaned up. Also, I didn't detail it here, but he did have a bit of an issue with missed tackles. The reason I didn't detail that is because it was also an issue with the Patriots, so that may just be part of his profile at this point. But as we saw last week with guys like Shaun Wade just taking bad pursuit angles and flat out missing tackles, even if the Patriots don't go to their man-heavy scheme, if they do end up playing more soft zones because they can't quite play that matchup style with J.C. Jackson probably still coming back from an injury, you need the tackling, you need the pursuit angles to mitigate the big explosive plays. So again, I think the Patriots are going to put him in better position. They're not going to ask him to go into the slot against a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Waddle and match speed with speed. Hopefully they put him in more situations where he can use that physicality, but his technique and press his patience and things like that are going to have to improve back to the level that we saw when he was Mr. INT for the Patriots. All right. Thank you so much for checking in. Make sure to find all of our written stuff at CLNSmedia.com and subscribe to Patriots Press Pass for all your video updates and analysis. With the NFL season officially underway, it's been pretty tough finding time to cook for myself and my family, and even tougher making meals that both taste good and don't destroy my body. Thankfully, our friends at Factor provide ready-to-eat meal kits that are not only chef prepared, but also dietitian approved and delivered straight to your door. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know any chefs or any dietitians, so this has been a huge help for me on a daily basis. These save me a ton of money. I don't have to go to the grocery store to get ingredients, and most importantly, they taste fantastic. Additionally, they save me a desperate trip to the nearest fast food place when I have completely forgotten to cook myself dinner. Head to factormeals.com/PatsDaily50 and use code PatsDaily50 to get 50% off. That's code PatsDaily50 at factormeals.com/PatsDaily50 to get 50% off.
Ever wish you could navigate the betting field with the confidence of a pro? Enter Odds Are. They're not a sports book, but they're the sports betting advisor you've always needed. It's like having a playbook for smarter bets right in your pocket. I've been absolutely loving the experience, and I think you will too. Especially since Patriots Press Pass listeners get a 30-day free trial. Elevate your game day and join the smart betting revolution. Go get it at oddsr.com/presspass. That's oddsr.com/presspass.